4 years ago in pop culture history, we lost one of Memphis's own in a very tragic way. So this is the story of Young Dolph. Young Dolph was born in Chicago. He actually moved to Memphis when he was just 2 years old, so that has always been the city that he claimed. He grew up with his grandmother because his parents were struggling from addiction and could not take care of their 5 children. Dolph had 2 younger brothers as well as 2 older sisters, and from what I could find, Dolph lived with his grandmother, Ida Mae, with the younger brothers. This is Ida Mae. She ran a very tight ship, very strict over there. Dolph had to go to church every Sunday, no talking back, and he had to serve on the usher board. She really was just the epitome of a praying grandmother, saw the potential in young Dolph and wanted to make sure that it could come out in whatever way that she could try. Dolph was always a fan of hip-hop, so he went on in 2008 to launch his very first mixtape, Paper Route Campaign. 2 years later, he formed his own label called Paper Route Empire and then put out his second mixtape, Welcome to Dolph World, which featured 2 Chainz as well as 8Ball. 4 years later in 2014, Yo Gotti tried to sign Young Dolph, but Dolph turned it down, saying that he wanted to stay independent. And in 2016, Young Dolph released his debut album, King of Memphis, under his own label. Now, the album itself did well. It landed at number 49 on the Billboard 200 list, but it was the title of the album that got Dolph into some trouble. One person in particular, Black Youngsta, who happened to be signed to Yo Gotti as well, did take offense to this. It was reported at one point that Black Youngsta and his crew were seen looking for Dolph, and then Youngsta actually put out a diss track called Shake Some that was aimed directly at him. Dolph responded by dropping a diss track of his own, which honestly just escalated everything. The day after he dropped this diss track, his car was shot at 100 times after he was performing in Charlotte. It turned out the car was bulletproof, so thankfully no one was hurt, but Black Youngsta and his crew were actually arrested for the shooting. However, the charges were dropped because there was a lack of evidence. That same year, Dolph dropped his sophomore album named Bulletproof, and it actually ended up living up to its name because Dolph was shot at once again in Los Angeles when a physical fight turned more violent. In response, he dropped a new EP called Niggas Get Shot Every Day. Dolph continued to lean into his music, and in 2019, he released a joint album with his cousin, Key Glock, called Dumb and Dumber. Well, at just 36 years old, Dolph's life came to a tragic end while he was buying cookies with his brother in Memphis. 2 men drove up to the shop, started firing through the window, and left young Dolph with 22 gunshot wounds. Like I said, his brother was actually with him, and his brother shot back, actually hitting one of the gunmen in the arm once and the leg once. There were 4 people ultimately charged in young Dolph's death. Fernandez was accused of being the mastermind of this whole situation. He was apparently the person that hired the gunman to off Dolph for $100,000, but he was acquitted because there was not enough evidence to prove that. Justin was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and being a felon in possession of a gun. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 35 years. Now, Cornelius on the end here, he actually testified at Justin's trial, and so his trial date hasn't actually been set yet. We don't have any further information from what I could see, but he was only charged with first-degree murder. I did mention 4 people. There's only 3 in this picture, but Jamarcus, who was Justin's brother, he actually was charged with being an accessory after the fact. Apparently, he helped them after